Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard DEI Airlines, and thank you for flying with us. In a moment, your flight attendants are going to give you very important safety instructions, and you should pay very careful attention because I, along with all other hires on DEI Airlines, I am a DEI hire. And I barely managed to pass flight school and did so finishing at the bottom of my class, not the bottom 2 or 3%, but the absolute bottom student in the class. But it's important here at DEI Airlines that we hire based on diversity. So along with that, there are certain dangers, and for that reason, I ask you to pay very careful attention to the instructions to follow in the event of a hard landing or crash or water landing. I'm joking, but I'm making a point. And the reason I'm making the point, I read an article not too long ago about a diversity officer with the Oregon Department of Forestry filing a complaint against her boss because he was emphasizing merit and ability too much in making hiring decisions instead of, in diversity officer's estimation, considering diversity sufficiently. There's a balance that we have to strike, and like with all things in democracy, it may be that DEI, which in my estimation is affirmative action on steroids, has swung potentially too far. And so I just ask you to keep some of these things in consideration. So along with things like airline pilots, there are all kinds of other people in life who we depend on and we put our lives in their hands. Surgeons, would you want to be operated on by a surgeon who is barely qualified but was hired based on diversity, equity, and inclusion instead of merit? Probably not. Even simple things, going to a restaurant, having a nice meal. Do you want somebody who is a very skilled chef, or do you want somebody who's in there because of the color of their skin? I was always a proponent of affirmative action as a young man. One of, if not the greatest champion of affirmative action was U.S. Supreme Court Justice Thurgood Marshall, who was a brilliant man and made the point, and a point that I absolutely agree with. Affirmative action was important not only to level the playing field and give opportunities to people who were denied access, who were the victims of prejudice and racism, to give them an opportunity, but in addition, his rationale was that it benefits society as a whole, because when we have diverse representation in the workplace and in government that reflects society as a whole, it better serves all of us. It's absolutely a valid point. It's a good point. But again, how far do we go in excluding considerations of merit instead of the color of your skin? And I would go back to the goal expressed by Dr. Martin Luther King, his dream of one day being judged by the content of his character rather than the color of his skin. And really, affirmative action and DEI are, in essence, a reverse form of prejudice. Isn't the right word, but it would be bias. It is making a selection in reaction to prejudice to try to correct matters. But if the true goal is that we should all be evaluated, like Dr. King thought, on our merit, then ultimately the goal should be that we should get rid of affirmative action and DEI. And I'm not suggesting that we're at that point now, not by a long shot, but we need to find a balance. And that's what I would throw out as food for thought. And there's another consideration here, and I'm certainly not the first to bring this up, but when you have people who are DEI hires or affirmative action hires, there's always a suspicion that somebody is in a position they are because of that and not because they're qualified. And another concern in that regard is what it does to the level of confidence of those who are admitted through affirmative action. Do they have the confidence of somebody who achieved their success based solely on merit? Or are they having a nagging doubt that maybe they don't qualify? Maybe they're not as good as they should be because of how they got in. It's like it's just a bigger version of nepotism. If you get into the corporate office of a company because your father is the CEO, how much confidence do those around you have in you, and how much confidence do you have in yourself? Admittedly, that's a hurdle that can be overcome, and it often is. But what about that doubt? That is something to keep into account.